Hey now YouTube, and welcome back to the workshop where we're going to have a super quick video, and I'm going to do the same format as usual, one take. I'm going to share with you my thought process when it comes to modifying sumps. I have a Red Sea Reefer 170. Red Sea claims that the sump is a 9-gallon sump. Very traditional type of format when it comes to sump. Inlet falls into the filter sock, transfers over to the mechanical filtration portion where you can have protein skimmers, reactors, falls into a bubble trap and into the return chamber. The return chamber is where you're obviously going to have your return pump, and I like to put my heater in the return chamber. Two primary reasons why I decided to modify my sump. Number one, my JNC skimmer, an absolute beast. I cannot say enough good things about it. JNC requires for this particular skimmer to be between 6 to 8 to 10 inches. And yes, there are 3 different models depending on the type of pump that comes with it. 6 to 10 inches to keep it simple. Unfortunately, the sump right now was at 5 inches and 3/4. Optimal depth, JNC claims 7.5 inches. So I went ahead, I cut a piece of plexiglass and I glued it in place with some aquarium safe silicone. Just went ahead and raised the level from 5 3/4 to exactly 7.5. That was number one. Number two reason, the refugium portion. I am a strong believer of refugiums for 2 reasons. Number one, the macroalgae is, I can't say enough good things about my skimmer apparently, and about how good a refugium is for your tank. Number one, the idea of a refugium, and we're going to go into it in probably another video once the refugium is up and running and doing its job properly, but is to counter-attack the amount of algae that is possibly being produced inside of your main display. That's the philosophy behind it. Second, it's called a refugium for a reason. It is a refuge for microbacteria, things like copepods, things like amphipods, etc. I think that these are absolutely beneficial to your tank, especially if you want to go into the direction of a mandarin goby, or even some of your tangfish, your anemones, etc. They absolutely love this kind of food that you're going to be able to provide to them, all from the refugium. So I just went ahead and I created a divider or a separator, perforated it, high flow in the middle to restrict the algae from trying to grow over, and I very specifically decided to put it after the skimmer for a reason. The reason is quite simple. I want to lose the least amount of copepods and amphipods as possible, and if I was to put the refugium before the skimmer would then suck in and chop up some of these micro creatures. So I'm hoping, and I've done this before and I've seen some positive results, that my return pump doesn't chew up as much copepods as as possible, and that some of them actually make it to the main display. So the last thing I want to review is, when is it a good time to modify my sump? Quite honestly, right at the beginning, before your main display is even up and running. The reason for that is it's quite simple. I'll give you a quick example. The aquarium safe silicone that I use requires 24 hours to dry and 48 hours before it touches water. That's 2 complete days to actually do your measurements, to make sure everything is nice and dry. If you need some cleaning to be done, you might have some coralline algae growing in your sump or whatever it may be. You're looking at for at least 3 to 4 days that your system will be separated from its sump. Your sump contains all of your filtration, contains your additional water volume, contains your heater, your return pump, reactors, skimmers, socks, etc. So it's a good thing for you to say, or to ask yourself, why am I modifying my sump? I had some very clear reasons, and I can even push it further and say, I'd love to have a frag rack in my sump as well. Maybe this portion right here won't be a refugium. Maybe this portion or this chamber will be a frag growing chamber, and then I can get a little bit of a return on my investment, because we all know that this hobby is not cheap. However, ask yourself anytime you make these modifications, if your tank isn't running the way that you want it to run currently, and you want to see different results and you think that modifying your sump and adding certain components to it will do that, then absolutely take a break from your main display and fix that. It's only going to help you in the long run. However, if everything is running perfectly fine and you just want to add a sump because you're having fun, then I recommend that maybe you look at the option of building a separate sump, a DIY type of sump, separately, so that you're not feeling the stress of having to have your sump back with your system as quickly as possible. Take your time, design it, look at different models, look at different formats. I hope this was interesting. I hope you guys got something out of it. Yeah, and happy reefing, everyone.